Welcome to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome in on a Thursday here at the Better Sports Network. It is indeed the 5-Pack. Kyle Elfrink hanging out with you for the next hour. We do it every single weekday at this very same time from 12 to 1 o'clock. A chance to get you up to date on what went down last night that you actually need to care about, and get you a preview of what you need to care about going into tonight. And yes, indeed, we finish things off with the ever-popular pack break. I had fun yesterday. I have fun every day, but I had fun yesterday with the 88 score. I felt like I'd opened up this pack of cards and I'd stumbled onto like an Uno set. That's what it felt like. Was looking for a draw 4 and a wild and a reverse and a skip. I didn't find any. Instead, I got like Doug Jones and Rick Cerrone. But it was a fun set. A lot of memories with this 88 score set. Today, coming up in just about 40 minutes or so, we will take a look back at the year 1990. A brand new decade descended on America, and Donruss was there to celebrate the 1990s. You may not recognize 1990 if I just say 1990 Donruss, but as soon as you see the first card out of this set, you will recognize it, because if you are anyone who collected cards from the mid-'80s to the late 90s, you're going to recognize these cards immediately. They were everywhere. And actually, a lot of times you get these crappy sets, and they're not fresh, they're not new. These are actually pretty decent. And I will stand up for Donruss. We have mocked their 88 set a lot here on the show. That one is kind of, I don't know, was the rarity, if you will, in the Donruss years, because they had really nice cards. 88 was trash. I don't know who was in charge of designing that card, but for the most part, Donruss put out a fairly attractive card, and I think these 1990 cards do fit in there. There's some interesting cards to go after in this card set, too, that we'll talk about coming up later in the show. As we begin, though, we start with our 5 things that mattered from last night, and I feel like it's been 3 straight days of me sitting here on the 5-Pack and talking about the Yankees and the Angels. I apologize, but it's Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. It's one big market versus another big market. It's East Coast versus West Coast. I'm going to give it some play. It's been fun. On night 1, we saw Ohtani go bonkers. On night 2, we saw Aaron Judge match him, starting with the leather.
High fly ball, deep center, going back. Judge still back on the track at the wall. He leaps, and he makes the play. He took away a home run and made the play.
Well, Michael, you can't make this up. This is star power right here. Ohtani goes dead center field. Aaron Judge says, nope. I get all 6-7 to me up. Oh, and that's a ricochet, not in the pocket. Kind of a rebound tip to yourself, but Aaron Judge comes up with it. Ohtani can catch his.
Gotta feel good to rob Shohei Ohtani in the first inning, right? I must admit, reminder to everybody, he's 6'7". The hand-eye coordination there, so, I expect you to be able to leap over the wall. But the hand-eye coordination for a 6'7" dude to then catch that ball barehanded, it's impressive. If you're 5'10" doing that, easier. You're 6'7" with that kind of, and I shouldn't be surprised. I mean, the guy hit 62 home runs last year. He's got great hand-eye coordination, but he showed it defensively there. So that was the top of the first inning. Then Aaron Judge, of course, came up in the bottom of the first inning.
There he goes. High drive, deep left center. There it goes. See ya! Into the bleachers. A long 2-run home run. Judge leads 2-0.
Wow, 412 feet later, his 6th home run, 10th and 11th RBI. Won't be on the run, but again, Aaron Judge. He's not.
Never gets old, does it, for Aaron Judge? Or a Yankees fan. Maybe it gets old for the rest of us. 6 home runs on the season. Prime Network with the highlights there, courtesy of them. So big thanks to them for providing that. Aaron Judge, by the way, he's doing offensively what you expect. He had a couple of more walks in that game. So he's doing Aaron Judge things. Good follow-up the last season. Defensively, though, Aaron Judge is a center fielder. I was looking at the defensive stats and understand we're literally 3 weeks into the season. So defensive stats aren't a perfect judgment right now. You at least want to go half the season before you feel truly confident about saying certain things. But as of now, Aaron Judge still doesn't have an error in center field. And if you look at defensive ratings of just center fielders in baseball, Aaron Judge is 7th best. He's actually ahead of Mike Trout. He's ahead of Cedric Mullins, Cody Bellinger, who's a good outfielder. Judge is ahead of them all. At the top is Brandon Nimmo, but it's worth noting center field has played pretty well for Aaron Judge. Now, as for the other side of this Ohtani-Judge matchup, Shohei Ohtani, who was robbed of that home run in the first inning, had an offer last night. Just to update you on his career at Yankee Stadium, 43 at-bats, and he's got a 140 batting average. Now, he does also have 4 home runs. We had about, I think it was 37,000 fans in the stands last night at Yankee Stadium. The night before was 38. It reminds all of us, as Shohei Ohtani makes his way around baseball, as he goes to Boston. He was there earlier in the week. He was there over the weekend. As he goes to LA, I think they're playing the Dodgers coming up in July. Yankees this week. It's a chance for all these teams, in effect, to make their first pitch in free agency to Shohei Ohtani. Again, he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Teams like the Red Sox, like the Yankees, like the Dodgers, maybe the Giants, the Cubs, Houston, who knows? They're all going to be after Shohei Ohtani. He's getting a good run through of what it's like to play in New York, to play in Boston. Now, no knock on Anaheim, but they got, I think, like 43,000 for their first 2 games this year. The next 4 games were all under 20,000. There's got to be some attraction to playing. You know, when you go to Yankee Stadium, you're getting 35,000 fans every night. Many nights you're getting over 40,000 fans. If this series with the Angels was taking place over the weekend, they'd be in the 40s. Right now, high 30s for that market. So just remember that as we go through the season. Shohei Ohtani probably has certainly 1.5 eyes on what's going on the diamond, maybe a half eye on what's going on in the stands. Kind of getting that initial run through of all these ballparks he might have a choice to play in coming up in the offseason. Third and final game of that Yankees-Angels series is this afternoon. It's a 4:05 first pitch. Patrick Sandoval going up against Nestor Cortez in that one. Let us move to our second issue that mattered. It's an issue, not a moment. It's an issue. It's Max Scherzer getting tossed yesterday in the Mets-Dodgers game. Now, we've got some video here. Let's roll with it, Heather. This is actually what you're seeing here. The third time that the umpires checked Max Scherzer. It was only the 4th inning, but it was the 3rd time they're checking. You can see Mad Max is mad, denying that he has sticky stuff on his hand. Angry that the umpires believe he has sticky stuff on his hands. Now watch, here we come. Umpires aren't listening to Max. Here comes the thumb. Come on, give him the thumb. See ya! Oh, Max Scherzer. Okay, I mentioned the 3rd time. Here's the deal. Max Scherzer pitching at Dodger Stadium. He walks off the field. I think it was at the end of the 2nd inning. I believe it was at the end. I'm losing track. Let me see if I've got all this. We'll just say after the inning. Umpire checks Max Scherzer. They say, wow, your hands are really sticky. Scherzer said, it's nothing but rosin and water. It's okay, we'll believe you. Wash it off. We're going to check you when you come back, okay? So Scherzer goes in, washes it off. He says he uses alcohol to wash it off. Had an MLB official standing there as he washed it off. Okay, fine. He comes out to pitch the next inning. Before he takes the hill, they say, hey, Max, come over here. They check his hands. They're pretty clean. But the glove's sticky. Well, Max didn't like that, but he says, okay, I'm fine. I'll get rid of the glove. So he brings out a new glove with none of the sticky stuff. Okay, he goes through 1, 2, 3 inning. As he's walking off the field, the moment we just saw, that's when that occurred. They checked his hands again and they said, my God, look at all the stickiness. Okay, here's what's going on. Let's hear from Scherzer. This is Max Scherzer talking about the situation with the umpires and eventually getting thrown out of the game yesterday.
Well, no, he said my hand's too sticky. I said, Phil, that's sweat and rosin. There's sweat and rosin. I kept repeating, it's sweat and rosin. I swear on my life, it's sweat and rosin. Like, I knew I was going to get checked. Like I said, I'd have to be an absolute idiot to use anything else. I literally go out there with sweat and rosin. I get ejected.
What was said before things got a little heated out there? Do you remember?
Just, his words were it was too sticky. And then, the other umpire, home plate umpire came in and said it's sticky. I don't know what you want me to do.
I'll tell you what I want you to do. What you said there, Max Scherzer, I don't doubt you. I think it was sweat and rosin. You know what, though? That doesn't mean it's totally legal. It doesn't. This offseason, and I'm going to read this straight from the rule book. Straight from the rule book. No player shall intentionally discolor or damage the ball by rubbing it with soil, rosin, paraffin, licorice, sandpaper, paper, emery paper, or other foreign substance. Here's what's going on here. Max Scherzer sees this as a loophole. Rosin is provided on the mound. All these guys use rosin. What Max Scherzer did is he piled on the rosin. By the letter of the law, perhaps it's legal. He's using a legal substance. By the letter of that law, though, you can't use rosin to mess with the baseball, to mess with your gloves. The umpire said after the game that in 3 years of checking guys, they had never seen a hand that sticky. Now, I get it. Maybe Max Scherzer is totally innocent. He didn't use anything off the field. He used what was on the field. He mixed it up. He made a goop, in effect. He had two opportunities, and then the third opportunity, they just got tired of it. And there was a case, I'm going to say over the weekend, I think it was with Domingo Germán of the Yankees, where the umpires pulled him aside in a game against the Twins, and they said, wow, this is sticky. And they let him go wash it off. He came back out, and that was that. The umpires gave him wiggle room. They didn't just immediately throw him out, much like they did with Scherzer. They gave him 2 opportunities. The third opportunity, they said, no, we can't do this. It's beyond what is normal. Max Scherzer was just pushing and pushing and pushing to see how much pushing it would take to get thrown out. I don't blame if I'm blaming somebody here, it's Max Scherzer. I'm not blaming the umps. Everybody wants to blame the umps. And again, I do not doubt what Max Scherzer said. It was sweat and rosin. But it was a pound of rosin. It was not a normal amount of rosin. And now you can say, well, maybe baseball should fix that. And that's fine. And unfortunately, the way life works is quite often players, you and I, whoever, people are made an example, right? They're made an example to tell everybody else, we're not putting up with this. Max Scherzer may just be an example here. And it'll warn everybody else, hey, we're not putting up with this crap. And Scherzer, I guess, gets to be the martyr, if you will, to take the hit. Now, here's what goes beyond this. He is facing a 10-game suspension because of this. That would be 2 starts through the rotation. Now, he will no doubt appeal it. So I don't think it's going to be immediate. But he's facing a suspension now. This Mets rotation, they don't have Verlander. They lost Carrasco to the IL. They don't have Jose Quintana, and now they could be without Max Scherzer for a week or two. Woo. Scherzer as well, kind of a rough start this year. You look at all of his numbers, all of them, every single one of them, whether it's K per 9, walk rate, barrels against, exit velocity against, his own velocity. It's all down. It's all uglier. It's all bad. Now, again, it's 4 starts, whatever the number may be. He hasn't even gotten to 20 innings, by the way, which is not very Scherzer-like. So he's had a rough go of it. He had to start push back because of a back injury. So we'll see. Probably an angry guy this morning. I like Max Scherzer. This is nothing against Max Scherzer. I'm a fan of Max Scherzer. My wife was in Max Scherzer's class throughout high school. She knows the man. So nothing against Max Scherzer personally. And I don't doubt what he was saying is 100% true. It was just sweat and rosin. Problem is, it was too much rosin. And you can blame baseball. Okay, what is the level of rosin? Okay, now we got to get into clarifying things. But I think when all is said and done, Max Scherzer probably gets like a 5-game suspension. He'll appeal. They'll drop it to 5 games. We'll probably get a stringent write-up of the rule book, and then we'll all carry on with our lives. And then pitchers, as they are wont to do, will look for the next edge because there's always a next edge. Let's go to our third item that mattered from the Wednesday of baseball. How about the Pittsburgh Pirates? The Pittsburgh Pirates completing a sweep yesterday. More importantly, though, the Pirates are now 12-7 on the season.
Andrew McCutchen with a high drive to center field. Clear the deck. Cannonball coming for Kutch. Andrew McCutchen, home run number 4 this season. The Pirates take a 6-0 lead. He is back. We're in the black and gold, and we love watching it. 442 feet.
It is fun to watch. I don't know about you, but I see that swing from Andrew McCutchen, and I watch where that ball landed. That's some classic McCutchen there. Now, he doesn't get to play all of his games in Coors Field, and the Pirates went on for a blowout victory. And I get it. Okay, you swept the Rockies. Congratulations. You're 12-7. This franchise needs anything positive. They need anything to get excited about. They should be excited. And don't mock what you did to the Rockies. They're 12-7. They have played Houston this year. They have played St. Louis. They have played Boston. They have played the White Sox. They haven't had a cakewalk in the first 19 games. Now they come back home, and they'll be playing the Cincinnati Reds tonight. First of 4 against the Reds. If I'm the Pirates, you're saying, man, let's keep this rolling. Let's take 3 of 4. Let's put some pressure on ourselves to take 3 of 4. Now, are they legitimate? I will break news here. They're not. Okay, I'm sorry. When you have a rotation of Johan Oviedo, Mitch Keller, Vince Velasquez, Rich Hill, and Ronzi Contreras, you're not legitimate. Your lineup is playing well. I mean, McCutchen, look at these numbers for McCutchen. The dude's hitting .310, 4 home runs, 9 ribbies, 10 runs, and 3 steals. That's like vintage Andrew McCutchen. Brian Reynolds is having a great 5x5 season. 317 is the average. He's got 5 home runs, 17 ribbies, 12 runs scored, and 3 steals. These guys are killing it. Pittsburgh is like top 6 in baseball in runs scored. Now, granted, you had 33 runs against the Rockies in the last 3 days. That helps. So, again, they're not that good, but they're performing. They're doing what they should at Coors Field. Give them credit. In years past, they wouldn't. They are stealing bases. They're one of the more aggressive teams on the base pass. Like, they're playing good baseball. God love them. You know, this is what we want. I don't want another year of the Pirates hoping to win 60 games. So enjoy it. You're 12-7. You're still going to finish under 500. Even with this start, by the way, the Bucks are 3rd in the NL Central. Even with the start. Mentioned they've got 4 games with Cincinnati, 3 against the Dodgers. But then after LA, they get 3 against Washington. So 7 of their next 10 are against 2 of the worst teams, maybe the 2 worst teams in the National League. They get Cincinnati and Washington. If they're legitimate, they take 6 of those 7. Seriously. 6 of the 7. We'll see. Check back in 10 days to see what the Pirates have done against those few opponents. Tonight's game will have Contreras on the hill. Luke Weaver going for the Reds, 6:35 Eastern for that start. Let's move to our 4th moment that mattered from yesterday. It actually came very late last night, if not early this morning. News breaking out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Wait a second, Kyle. Las Vegas? What the hell do they have to do with baseball? Well, they're going to have a lot to do with baseball because it has been announced, even by the team, the Oakland A's coming out and announcing that they have signed an agreement for that piece of land. Does anything scream future home of the Oakland A's more than that? Now, it will be beautiful in years to come, but right now I'm looking at that and it says, yeah, I think the A's could play baseball there. It's a 49-acre lot right by the Strip. You see the Strip there in the distance in Las Vegas. How convenient that a state, an area, the Bay Area, was settled by 49ers, that the Oakland A's leave the Bay Area and get 49 acres of lot space in Las Vegas. It's going to happen. A's have admitted. Oakland came out and said, screw these guys. We're done negotiating. They have been going back. And for those who don't follow it, they've been going back and forth for like 2 decades trying to find a home for Oakland. And frankly, it's not going to work. And in the last 5 years, I don't think Oakland, the powers that be, ownership, any of that, I don't think they've wanted to stay in Oakland. I think that's pretty evident from how they've handled things. So they get their wish, they're going to move to Vegas. A lot of fun things going on here. And I'm not saying, hey, I get it, Oakland. I've been to Oakland a few times. Oakland's a fun town. Oakland's an underrated town. I love going to the Coliseum. The Oakland A's are a fun team to root on. I feel for the Oakland city, but I'm going to tell you this, they're going to be better off without Oakland. I mean, like all cities, they have needs, infrastructure, whatever it may be. They have needs. Save your $800 million and put it into your city instead of putting it to an Oakland A's team that doesn't want to be there. So I know it hurts. Great tradition. The only A's team I've ever known is Oakland. So it changes for all of us. But here's where they're going to be in Vegas. And you see T-Mobile Arena there, by the way, is where the Knights play. Allegiant Stadium is where the Raiders play. And then you see Mandalay Bay, the Tropicana, New York, MGM Grand. This red area here, that's where the ballpark's going to be. So right across the highway, I think a lot of you have taken that Interstate 15 maybe back to the airport from time to time in Vegas. But it is making, in effect, an entertainment capital. I mean, think about Vegas. They're going to have the Super Bowl, I think, next year. They got the Raiders. They've got the Knights. They host all manner of NBA and college basketball games. Now they've got a baseball team. It looks like opening day 2027 for the first game to be played. And the other part of this is, and right now you'd have to assume it's all going to happen. The other part of this is now this allows baseball to get a little more serious about expansion because Rob Manfred, the commissioner, has stated time and time again, we will not expand until we figure out what's going on with the Oakland A's and what's going on with the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, Tampa seems to be on a little sturdier ground in terms of getting a new stadium in Tampa. Still a lot of hoops to jump through, but they're in a better spot than Oakland and the A's ever were. But now it looks like Oakland's going to Vegas. Rob Manfred pretty well signed out. He came out publicly and said, yeah, we're going to Vegas. So it's going to happen. So that will take care of one issue. And then I think Tampa, maybe in the next year or two, hopefully that's taken care of. So what you're looking at is we know how this works. These expansion teams, these cities that want new baseball teams, they're going to pay like $1.5 billion. I mean, seriously, the price tag's going to be silly. Nashville, Portland, Charlotte, people have mentioned Montreal as a possibility. I think Nashville is probably the place to be. The issue with Nashville is it's right in between, almost perfectly in between St. Louis, Cincinnati, and Atlanta. And so Nashville, this ever-growing and thriving metropolis, has a lot of Braves fans, a lot of Reds fans, a lot of Cardinal fans, and all those teams, those three teams, they want to keep those fan bases. So they're probably going to want some sort of payoff in order to give up the market, if you will, to a brand new team in Nashville. But it'll happen. I mean, money talks, integrity walks, as we always say. But the Oakland A's headed to the desert. Good luck to them. I guess they'll still be the A's. They've been the A's through Philadelphia, through Kansas City, through Oakland. I would assume they will be the A's in Las Vegas. A franchise that just can't sit still. And heck, were they the Boston A's? I don't even know. Philadelphia A's are the one I remember going way back. Let's go to our fifth and final thing that mattered. We'll hit you with some NBA. We talked about this yesterday on the 5-pack. How would it go if the Grizzlies and the Bucks did not have Ja Morant and Giannis for their Wednesday night of NBA playoff action? Well, lo and behold, neither of those guys played for their respective teams last night, but it didn't really matter. We'll start with Memphis, who got a win against the Lakers.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
No. Here's Bane. The pull-up.
Bane will break you.
Memphis up by 7, looking for more. Bane, the cross, lays it in! Desmond Bane! From the field. Is Bane feeling it? Yes, sir! Yep.
103-93, Grizzlies go on for the win. Desmond Bain big in that moment late in the first quarter. Xavier Tillman had a massive game for the Grizzlies. He finished with 22 points and 13 rebounds. So the series is now tied up at 1 apiece. I still don't know if John Morant's going to be back. And honestly, if you look at the odds right now, courtesy of DraftKings, the expectation is John Morant's probably not back for game 3, and the rest of the series is a big question mark. And I agree with that. I said this yesterday. I don't expect John Morant to play in game 2. He didn't. I think this wrist is a problem. The current odds for the series, Lakers are still the betting favorite at -150. Memphis is +130. I must say, and I said this yesterday, I still like Memphis even without Morant. I really do. So getting them at +130, sign me up for it. Game 3 of that series is going to be Saturday night, 10 o'clock, late tip-off as they move to LA. Series, again, knotted up at 1 apiece. ESPN will have that game on Saturday night. Now, as for the Milwaukee Bucks, they had even less trouble taking on the Miami Heat last night. They did it without Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they did it with a barrage of 3-point baskets last night.
Holiday in the corner, Portis rising fire. Still.
Let's see if he can be an X factor for the Heat.
Holiday draws a double team. Ingles on the move. Baseline pull up. Holiday, and he rips it.
Great job by Martin on the attack to create the angle for Adebayo to get the finish.
He's got 6 now. Middleton again. Vincent inside. Adebayo can't hold on. Here comes Ingles. Takes a 3 in transition and knocks it down. Whoa.
Don't you love the NBA? He got a 2-on-1 fast break the other way, and he decided, you know what? I'm going to jack it up from 25 feet. And it's going to be bottoms up. 25 3-pointers last night for the Bucks. That tied an NBA playoff record. Pat Connaughton had 8 of them. Drew Holiday, massive effort with no Giannis. He had 24 points. 5 rebounds and 11 assists. Easy win for Milwaukee. They, despite being 1-1 in this series, are still massive favorites against the Heat. -450, the current odds to win this series. They will also have game 3 coming up on Saturday night. That'll be a 7:30 tip-off in Miami. So both those series are 1-1. Both of the favorites probably going to be without their stars, Morant and Antetokounmpo. But only one of those two teams is still picked to win the series. Milwaukee, an easy pick, according to the odds makers. Not so much with Memphis. I still like Memphis. Again, at +130. Those are the 5 moments that mattered from Wednesday night. When we return here on the 5-pack, it's the 5 moments that will matter tonight. We'll get to those after first hearing from our man Mark, talking more about the NBA.
In today's world where you have to kind of search as well to find out whether or not people are being genuine or not, I present to you Dillon Brooks, the Memphis Grizzlies forward/guard, a guy last night after the game, and the Grizzlies beat the Lakers 103-93 in game 2 of their opening round Western Conference playoff series. He dropped in 12, had a dagger 3 as well. Goes out there and, as he said, he pokes bears, and he poked LeBron James, calling him old, because everybody and their mother after game 1 was willing to handle Lakers this series and a march maybe potentially through the Western Conference into the NBA Finals. Well, Dillon Brooks said not so fast, because you know why? He's being true to himself. As we go out there in today's world, today's society, and people aren't real, aren't genuine, Dillon Brooks exactly knows who he is. He's going to be an antagonist. He's going to be an instigator. That's why he's stuck in the NBA. His game has evolved from when he was a star for the Oregon Ducks collegiately, and then the Pac-10, now the Pac-12. Dillon Brooks is being true to himself. So as everyone else out there goes out there and gives you the hot takes today saying, how dare Dillon Brooks say what he did after last night's game? You know what? That's Dillon Brooks being true to himself. I applaud him. Will it work out in the Western Conference? Will it work out for Memphis in their opening round series against the Los Angeles Lakers? We'll all find out together. But I'll say this. This is why Dillon Brooks is in the NBA. This is why he's stuck in the NBA. He plays on the edges. He doesn't care what other people think, wearing the shades and all. I loved it. I think it's great for the league. Good on Dillon Brooks. For more content like this, go to Better Sports Network app with bettersports.com and at Better Sports Network on all your social media platforms.
Welcome back to the 5-Pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
Absolutely so. Amen, Moose, by the way, talking about Dylan Brooks. Welcome you back to the 5-Pack. Kyle Elfrink with you. Want to remind you later tonight, right here on BSN, 7 o'clock, we will get you set for the NFL Draft. We have our NFL Draft preview. Eric Balkman and Garrett Price coming your way at 7 o'clock. Taking a look at the NFL Draft from a fantasy perspective. So you're going to want to tune in for that. The draft, I'll talk about it here in a bit, just a week away as we get set for kind of that mid-spring holiday that the NFL gives us every year. Still to come here on the 5-Pack, we will get to our daily pack rip. Although today it's a pack open. We got Donruss 1990 baseball cards that we're going to get to in a bit. First, though, we got to get the things that matter to you tonight. We start in the world of baseball. It's a pretty light Thursday schedule, by the way, but there is something to absolutely watch this evening. It is the return, the long-awaited return of Fernando Tatis Jr. Yes, the injuries are over, we think. The suspension is over, we know, and Tatis is set to be in the lineup tonight for San Diego as they take on Arizona. It has been 563 days since Fernando Tatis has played in an actual major league game. 2 wrist surgeries, a shoulder surgery, and an 80-game suspension. Now, a lot's changed in 560 days. Juan Soto has come to town. Many other pieces have come to town for San Diego. Additionally, Fernando Tatis Jr. is no longer a shortstop because Xander Bogaerts came to town. So Tatis tonight is expected to be in right field. That's his new position. He's also expected to lead off for San Diego, and they need him. Check this out. San Diego is not only 9-11 to begin the season, but they are 28th in batting average. They are 22nd in on-base percentage. They are 18th in slugging percentage. They are 21st in OPS plus. Now, there's a lot of teams that are off to slow starts. There are a lot of teams that are ranked in the 20s in all those categories, but none of them have any of the talent like San Diego has. San Diego is overfilling with talent. It's an overwhelming amount, and Tatis is part of that. So they need him. They're off to a slow start. Kind of been a head scratcher. They played a lot of good teams in the early going. And we'll see if Tatis gives an immediate impact. 9:40 Eastern tonight for the first pitch. It's going to be Michael Wacha going for the Padres and Ryan Nelson going for the D-backs. And Arizona is actually in first in the NL West, so kind of an early season showdown. But again, leadoff hitter, that's the expectation. Fernando Tatis back in our lives. We'll just cross our fingers that he can stay in our lives for a while. Moving to our second item that will matter for the night, let's talk about a guy who won't be in our lives, at least for this evening. If you missed it yesterday, how could you? Draymond Green has been suspended for 1 game by the NBA. A lot of it had to do not so much with the stomping on Domantas Sabonis a few nights ago. It has to do with, it feels like every year we're having to deal with this with Draymond Green. So the NBA, and I don't fault them for that, honestly. I mean, you've got a perpetual offender here, the repeat offender, Draymond Green. So I actually don't have an issue with the 1-game suspension. I will remind everybody, you think the NBA is rigged. If they're truly rigged, he doesn't get suspended because the NBA would love Golden State to go as deep through this thing as possible. So no one ever mentioned, everybody only wants to complain about the NBA when they're like, oh my God, look how rigged it is. I don't hear any of that with Draymond Green. If it were truly rigged, there is no chance he would be suspended, right? And don't tell me, oh, Sacramento's a better. Hell no. People don't want Sacramento in the West Finals. They want Steph Curry. They want the Warriors. Nobody. Sacramento? Most people had no idea Sacramento had a basketball team until 4 nights ago. They were back in the playoffs for the first time in 6,000 days or whatever. Come on. The NBA's not rooting on Sacramento. So I thought I would just pontificate about that because everybody complains how rigged the NBA is. Not in this case. Anyway, Steve Kerr, head coach for the Warriors. He's got to come up with a plan. Here he is talking about getting set for Game 3 tonight against Sacramento.
More than likely going to be a game where we play a lot of people, and we just have to just put our best foot forward, and I believe in our guys. I have no doubt we can go out there and get this done. And this is we've been in some difficult situations before. I guess maybe not down 2-0, but we've been down 3-1, which sounds worse. We've seen it all. So we've seen suspensions. We had a game last year in Memphis, I think, where Draymond was kicked out, the first half. So we understand that, like, you always have to be ready for stuff.
Kind of hard to keep track of all the games when Draymond's been kicked out. I understand, Steve. It's a lengthy list. Game tonight is at 10 o'clock. For me, I talked about this, 2-3 days ago. Here's the key. A, Golden State's home. They should win this game. They really should. B, they got to start hitting their threes. They did not shoot well from behind the arc against Sacramento. And the third thing is a very critical piece to the puzzle. I believe a little more critical than Draymond Green is Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole's been fighting an ankle injury. He has not looked good in the first couple of games. So no Draymond tonight. You got Steph Curry. You got Klay Thompson. We'll see if Jordan Poole is good to go. The odds makers has Golden State installed as a 6-point favorite. Can't disagree with that. Like I said, they're very difficult to beat at home. And that place is going to be raucous tonight. It's a very young Kings team. So Sacramento's gotten off to a very important 2 games edge. We'll see if they can kick it to 3. I'm not predicting. In fact, I think Golden State does cover that 6-point spread tonight. Now, speaking of the odds, let's move to our third moment that will matter for the night. It's the NHL playoffs. We got another 4 games coming your way this evening. All 4 games currently have the lower seeded /road team up 1-0. If you look at the matchups there, start times, all that good stuff, Tampa went on the road to Toronto, got to win. Rangers went across the Hudson, got to win in New Jersey. Seattle went down to Denver, got to win. Winnipeg went to Vegas, got to win. So all 4 road teams won 2 nights ago. How about tonight? Can they possibly do it again? Now, if you look at the odds, these are all courtesy of DraftKings. Every single one of the road teams tonight, despite winning game 1, they are still underdogs tonight. Every single one. Tampa is plus 145. The Rangers are plus 110. Practically a coin flip between them and the Devils. Seattle is plus 190. And Winnipeg is plus 140. But check this out. If you dig further into the odds, 3 of the 4 underdogs are actually series favorites. So again, all these underdogs for game 2, they're expected to lose. That's what the odds say. But in 3 of these 4 series, the underdog is still the pick. The Rangers are minus 190 to take this series from the Devils. Tampa is minus 140, and Winnipeg is minus 140. The odds still have Colorado as a favorite over Seattle, but it's not massive. Seattle is plus 115 to pull off the upset. Should be fun tonight. Playoff hockey, man. It's a joy. And all these series saw the road team win. We'll see if they can win tonight. I would take Toronto. I would take the Rangers. I would take the Avs. And I would take the Jets tonight. Those are my picks. Item number 4, and this is not so much for mattering tonight, but today and later tonight officially marks 7 days until the NFL draft. T-minus 175 hours from now. 175 hours from this moment, pretty well. Carolina will make the first pick in the draft. Remember, Carolina traded up with the Bears, so they've got the number 1. The assumption is Bryce Young is their pick. Now, there is a chance, slight, but there's a chance that each of the first 4 picks could be quarterbacks. Mentioned Carolina going with Bryce Young. If Houston holds on to number 2, or even if they trade out of number 2, whoever goes up to number 2, they'd probably want a quarterback. And right now, C.J. Stroud of Ohio State, he's expected to be 2. Now, Arizona doesn't need a QB. Remember, they have Kyler Murray. They made a big commitment to Kyler Murray. But they could trade out a 3. Somebody falls in love with Anthony Richardson. Somebody wants Will Levis. So you could see a team trade up to 3 to get a QB, and then Indianapolis needs a QB. So 3 of the top 4 teams need QBs. The third team is in a great spot to trade out of that spot. So that'll be a big storyline going into next Thursday. Let's see, Lamar Jackson. I mentioned Houston trading out of 2. There are rumblings that maybe Baltimore would give a ring to Houston and say, hey, instead of waiting around on CJ Stroud, would you rather have Lamar Jackson? Give him his money and just move on? Maybe. But we could see a trade of Lamar Jackson. I don't think that's likely. I think the Ravens are digging in. I think Jackson is digging in. I don't think other teams are interested really in the pay they have to give Lamar Jackson. Now, that could change after the draft. Depending on how things play out, maybe a team is even more desperate for a QB, and they're willing to pay the price for Lamar Jackson. Of course, we still have the Aaron Rodgers saga ongoing. Will that trade happen before the draft? We keep hearing about the Packers wanting a first rounder. If they truly do, maybe the Jets finally give it up going into next Thursday's draft. One other thing to keep in mind, and this is obviously more from a fantasy perspective, but Bijan Robinson is by far the best running back. And usually that has meant that you get drafted 25th in the first round. There is a distinct possibility that Bijan Robinson could go in the upper half of the first round, top 15. Slight chance of maybe around 10 or 11, depending on how things fall. But Bijan Robinson, where will he land? Wherever he lands, barring something unforeseen, if he lands with a team that needs a running back is what I'm getting at, like a team like Washington. Bijan Robinson will immediately become a first-round fantasy football pick. He will. He'll be the running back position this year is pretty ugly. The situations are not all that perfect. So I think wherever Bijan Robinson lands, it's going to be a good thing for his fantasy fortunes. But we are 175 hours away, and obviously going into next week, we'll have a ton of coverage right here on BSN. Of course, we here on the 5-Pack, we'll be covering it as well. Finally, our 5th item, what will matter tonight? We like to do this on a Thursday. Sports schedule's a little light on Thursdays, so I got a bet du jour for you. Bet du jour. We'll go to the NBA for this one. Clippers and the Suns are facing off tonight. Now, I know everybody's paying attention to the Warriors and the Kings, but Clippers and Suns. This series is back in LA. Series is tied at 1 apiece. I'm going to take the Clippers on the money line to get the win tonight against Phoenix. They are plus 130. They won game 1. They lost game 2. They're home tonight. Kawhi Leonard's been great in the first 2 games. Should note that Kevin Durant has yet to score 30 points in either of the first 2 games. Phoenix is 17-24 on the road this year. Here's the key for the Clippers. If you look at the first 2 games, the 2 games in Phoenix, they got off to really strong starts, very strong starts. But being the road team, eventually the home team comes back, momentum, all that stuff. Phoenix got the win in game 2. If the Clippers can get off to an early edge tonight, they hold on to it. It does make a difference to be home versus to be on the road. So we just need they've done it in the first 2 games. They've come out, they're hitting. They've come out looking to take the lead. Westbrook, Leonard, all these guys. And they've done it. They were the road team in Phoenix, they're the home team now. So I'm going to take them as an underdog at home. Their bench has dominated Phoenix. In the first 2 games, they are scoring an average of more than 20 points per game. Clippers bench versus the Suns bench. So that is my bet du jour for the day. Let's take the Clippers on the money line, plus 130 to get that win against Phoenix. They'll get going later tonight. Okay, that is our 5 things that will matter for this Thursday evening. When we return right here on the 5-Pack, let's open this pack. 1990 Donruss. Little baseball action. Coming your way next on the Better Sports Network.
A week from now, the NFL draft will take place in Kansas City, Missouri. The quarterback position will be front and center, as it is in every draft season. This year, Bryce Young will more than likely be the top pick of the draft, going to the Carolina Panthers. But who's going to be the second quarterback selected? Will it be C.J. Stroud from Ohio State or Will Levis from the University of Kentucky? Well, that's going to be for those general managers to decide. Because you see, if you mess up when you pick a quarterback early, it can really set your franchise back. Just ask the New York Jets organization and their fans. So head coaches and general managers, whether it's Levis, Stroud, or Anthony Richardson, just let it be known that your legacies and careers could be on the line in this upcoming draft. Now, For more better content, download the Better Sports Network app, visit bettersports.com, and at Better Network on social media.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-Pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Yes, time to enjoy some pack ripping, shall we? Today we are taking a look at 1990 Donruss, according to the package here, 16 picture cards. Sounds so old-fashioned, 16 picture cards. We are also trying to build, which we can't with just a single pack, but there is a Carl Yastrzemski puzzle that we are trying to build. There's over 1 million prizes to win something. I don't know. All these guys are trying to win. Now I was looking at this particular set. There is a card in here. Now, we've all heard about the Billy Ripken baseball bat card. I think it was the 89 Fleer, I think, where he had an expletive on the knob of his baseball bat. Somehow, some way, it ended up in circulation. This photo of Bill Ripken sitting with a bat with the F-bomb on the bottom of the bat, which back in the day, that was huge. Like, that was on, like, the Today Show. This trading card with a curse word. And what Fleer did back then is they created all these different versions of the Bill Ripken card. I remember there was a black box over the knob, there was a airbrush, and there were all these varieties of Bill Ripken cards. I bring that up because I think in the 80s, it was fair to say that was like the most sought after thing, was finding the Billy Ripken air card. With this 1990 Donruss card set, there's a very famous card and mistake in here. Juan Gonzalez. Remember him with the Rangers? Juan Gonzalez had MVP level years. He was probably roided up, but still, good hitter. Juan Gonzalez has a rookie card in this set, and a few of those rookie cards are actually reverse negative images of Juan Gonzalez. In effect, Juan Gonzalez, who was a right-handed hitter, on his card, if you get it, the reverse negative image shows him as a left-handed hitter. And you'll know you have received it if the 19 on the front of his jersey is reversed. So that became a thing, and that card today is still worth money. Now, Juan Gonzalez didn't end up in the Hall of Fame or anything, but that card is certainly worth money. Well, my goodness, this is an actual wax pack that I'm opening. You can hear me tearing the paper. This is why they left wax packs as be. Look at this. You see that? Look at this. It's sticking to the last card. That's what happens to wax when you let it sit around for 30 years. Okay, look at that. I can't get a PSA 10 with that, can I? Gonna have to sit here and scratch it off. I might as well start with that card. Thankfully, it's a Jeff Pico card. If you're gonna get the wax pack stuck to the back of a card, you want to make sure it's a Jeff Pico. So we're already winning. Jeff Pico. We don't even know yet, Jeff Pico. You know, Donruss is still doing this thing. We talked about it earlier in the week. Jeff Pico's real name is Jeffrey. Thanks for the clarification, Donruss. We appreciate that. Now, again, these cards are nice. I kind of like these. These are not autograph cards. You know, we had those cards in the 70s and the 60s where Topps would have the player's signature at the bottom. This is kind of a play on that, but these are not actual signatures. They just used the same script and they stuck it in. Now, Steve Finley was a very exciting center fielder with the Orioles. I always remember Steve Finley because growing up in the middle of the country, there weren't a ton of baseball players who played college baseball around me that made the big leagues, but I think Steve Finley did. Steve Finley was from Paducah, Kentucky, which is just across the river from where I grew up. And I think Steve Finley was an SIU Carbondale Saluki. And Steve Finley made the big leagues. This was his rookie season, or coming off of his rookie season with Baltimore. He had some pretty good years, hung around in baseball for a good decade, very good fielder. That's a good action card. Again, back in this era, 88 to 92, Topps got lazy. They didn't give us any action. So Score, Upper Deck, Donruss, they jumped to the fore, gave us some action. One of the best pitchers of the 90s. Remember, this is a 1990 card set. Let's start things off with Greg Maddux. Oh, yeah, the legend Greg Maddux, who at this point in his career was just becoming the legend. People forget Greg Maddux was not very good his first couple of years. In 1987, Greg Maddux had a 5.61 ERA in 30 starts. 5.61 in 30 starts. In that season, let's see, do we have his record? He went 6-14. Then in 1988, Greg Maddux went 18-8. In 1989, 19-12. And of course, we know how the rest of the decade went. He won a Cy Young with the Cubs. I think he won multiple Cy Youngs with the Braves. Greg Maddux just coming into his own. Nice card there. Again, action card. One of the best nicknames in all of baseball. To this day, one of the best nicknames we've got in the last 40 years. Mostly because people have stopped making good nicknames. But nothing beats Oil Can Boyd. Oil Can. There will only be one oil can. There can't be. If anybody tries down the road, as long as I'm walking this earth, if anybody tries to give another player the nickname Oil Can, I'm going to fight it. I'm going to fight it strongly. Oil Can Boyd. He had issues off the field. He was a pretty good pitcher, but you always felt like there was more in the can, if you know what I mean. His teammate, Greg Harris, pretty well just a random pitcher. You know, this batting practice jersey, I actually owned this. I was kind of a Red Sox fan back in the day. I've talked before about my love affair for Ellis Burks, Boston Red Sox. So I got a Boston Red Sox batting practice jersey. Couldn't afford the jersey. So I had to go the batting practice route. And this one right here, that navy blue one, that's the one I had. There is a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card in this set. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. We got Ken Griffey Sr. with the Cincinnati Reds. I believe this is the second time we pulled Ken Griffey Jr. Here's another Red Sox, also in my favorite Boston Red Sox batting jersey. We get the full version there. Danny Heap, just a DH. Doesn't he look fearsome? Danny Heap. I believe, where are we at here? Can't be. I think this might be Oakland, the Coliseum. I think that's it. Because I say that because look at the wraparound luxury boxes back in the football days. But it's weird because they would have had red seats. But that's a triple deck stadium. And with that look, you know, kind of that oval look, I'm thinking that might have been in the Coliseum. Now, here's a guy who was made for the pitch clock. Bob Tewksbury was a quick worker for the St. Louis Cardinals. Great quick worker. Bob Tewksbury is like a really smart dude. He wrote a book a few years ago about pitching and kind of inside baseball sort of stuff. But Bob Tewksbury was a very educated baseball player. He was a right-hander, as you can see, for the Cardinals when they weren't any good. People forget the Cardinals, the last era where they just weren't a good team was this era. From about 1988 to like 94. They were a very average baseball team. Didn't make the playoffs once. Now, ever since the late 90s, they make the playoffs every year. But Bob Tewksbury was one of the guys who was decent for the Cardinals back in the day, and he flew through games. He was a quick worker. I think there was a game me, my father, and maybe my brothers went to, and the game lasted like 2 hours and 8 minutes, something. And he threw like a complete game, Bob Tewksbury. One of the best hitters in the 80s, even the 90s. He had 3,000 hits in his career. There's Wade Boggs. No doubt before this photo was taken, he ate a chicken. I think Wade Boggs, that was his superstition. He always ate a chicken before the game. Check out these batting average numbers. Going back to 85, 368, 357, 363, 366, 330. That is insane. And look how many at-bats he had in those years. 653, 580, 551, 584, and 621. Check out the hits. The hits every year for Wade Boggs, 240, 207, 200, 214, 205. Wow. You know, this is one of those guys, like, you got to look at the back of the baseball card to remind yourself how good he was. We're talking about the Pirates earlier. Off to a great start, 12-7. Their third baseman, the guy leading off, is Cabrian Hayes. Here's his papa, Charlie Hayes. Charlie Hayes of the Phillies. Charlie was a young guy at this point. Let's see, he would have been 25 years old. Pretty well had just started his career. He got called up late in the season to Philadelphia. He was a third baseman. I think he's still a coach in baseball. And obviously his son, also a third baseman. So there you go, Charlie Hayes. Gene Larkin of the Minnesota Twins. He won a World Series with the Twins. Maybe a couple of World Series, in fact. Not much of a hitter, so-so hitter, but kind of a guy who just hung around with that squad. Here's a speedster. And you know he's a speedster because check it out. Back in the day, you would know a guy was a real stolen base demon because he would get at least 1 foot on the turf. What do I mean by that? Well, check out the field he's standing on. Back in the day, we had AstroTurf, and so you'd have the dugout spot by each base, and there'd be dirt there. Well, if you took your lead off and you got 1 foot, or God forbid, even 2 feet on the turf, you were a guy who loved to steal. Vince Coleman is like, oh man, is he going to put 2 feet on the turf? Gerald Young would put 1 foot on the turf. Let's see. He had, better than I thought. 1988, 65 steals for Gerald Young. He followed that up with 34 steals. He fell off a cliff after that. But man, like back in the day, Gerald Young even had guys getting 60 plus steals. Tell you another thing I love about this card, and this is somebody, check out those wristbands. Players used to wear wristbands with an image of themselves. I love that. Why don't we do that anymore? Come on. Ramon Martinez, Pedro's brother. Ramon was a very good pitcher, not to the level of Pedro, but an all-star nonetheless. Had some very good years with LA. Chuck Krim, nothing but a reliever. Looks like Chuck Krim, they took this photo at spring training. They must have stolen this photo from Topps. Hey, Topps, you got any spring training photos of Chuck Krim? Oh, do we? Hundreds, in fact. Here you go. Rated rookie, Kent Merker, left-hander, was part of that early days of the Braves turning it around. They still weren't any good in 1990, but starting in 91, they turned it around. Merker probably didn't reach the levels of an Avery or a Smoltz or eventually a Maddox, but he was good, pretty solid. But again, he was kind of the fifth wheel, if you will, of those youngsters who pitched for the Braves in the 90s. And then we close it down with catcher Scott Bradley. What a fun way to finish our pack rip. Scott Bradley. Being facetious. This is not a fun way to end the set. But some good cards here. Got a rated rookie, Kent Merker. Ramon Martinez, this is probably coming, he was still a young guy. He'd only made 24 starts in his career when this card came out. We got a couple of legends from the decade of the 90s. Gotta love Wade Boggs and Greg Maddux. Let's see, anybody else that stood out here? Yeah, Oil Can, Charlie Hayes, Ken Griffey Sr., Bob Tewksbury. Pretty good pack. And again, I love these cards. I really do. I like these cards. These are good cards. Good-looking cards. Got the back here with, the typical Donruss. Every Donruss looked like this on the back. Now, there were actually parallel cards in this set. We didn't pull any. Nowadays, everything's a parallel card. But they actually had these in Donruss in 1990. They're very rare, though. We didn't get any of those. Mentioned the Griffey rookie. There's also a Larry Walker rookie in this set. I think Sammy Sosa had a rookie card as well in this set. So hopefully we'll get more of these. I like the 1990 Donruss. Certainly bringing back memories. That is our pack rip for this edition of the 5-Pack. I want to thank our producer, Heather Klein. I want to thank you. Enjoy the night of sports. We will catch up tomorrow. One last show this week, 12 o'clock Eastern, with more of the 5-Pack.